with parents, and what views would you not? So the way that your parents communicate with you, do you think that that will influence or impact the way you communicate with your children? And what views would you naturally share, or what views would you not? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on those questions. And then as far as siblings, so brothers and sisters, many factors affect sibling relationships, especially the ages and gender. I work with children, that's my population, so I've done a lot of study on birth order and a lot of study on family dynamics. And it's really interesting. Same-sex genders, okay, that was the same thing. Same-sex siblings, didn't come out quite right, tend to have a lot more difficulty getting along. So if there are two brothers or two sisters, a lot more competition, a lot more jealousy, a lot more rivalry, especially if they're very close in age. The further apart you are, the more varied your interests and the more varied your friends, and so you have more independence. But anyway, siblings, the relationship is affected by tons and tons of factors. If you have any interest at all in learning about birth order, which I strongly encourage you to do it, in your summer reading or something, my favorite book on the topic is Birth Order and You, and it's by a husband and wife couple, and just a fascinating book because it not only covers how birth order affects who you are, but then how birth order affects every subsequent relationship. In other words, as a parent, because you were a firstborn older sister of brothers, you are likely going to align with this child over this child because you understand the firstborn role, or as a spouse, the best combinations. And just to give you a little hint or heads up or something, if you are a firstborn, you usually pair best with a youngest and vice versa. So two firstborns together will usually clash, two youngest will usually clash, two middle children will usually clash. So the opposite end tends to work best. So email me if you want more information about that, and I can go on for days. Anyway, so you also need to consider sibling rivalry. Sibling rivalry, the main goal of that is to seek parental attention. And every child is going to feel that the other child has preferential treatment, or the other child has, leeway that you don't receive, etc. So in an attempt to seek parental attention and get your way, you have that sibling rivalry emerge. Only children may have disadvantages. If any of you are only children, I'd like you to, if you're willing to anyway, discuss in your post what you think are the advantages and disadvantages of being an only child. And if you are an only child, or you are aware of the dynamics of an only child, how do only children acquire conflict skills development? Because if you think about it, you spend a lot of your childhood arguing and fighting with your siblings. So if you don't have any, where are you afforded the opportunity to learn how to resolve conflict and to manage conflict and develop those type of skills? So I'm interested to hear what you think about that. Okay, so I'd like you to take a sheet of paper, because this is one of your activities to post this week, so you're probably going to need to write this down before you type it. I'd like you to think about 3 relationships. So we've talked about the 3 today: friends, family, and romantic. So I would like you to think about 3 relationships of those categories. If you don't have a romantic relationship you can think of a very close relationship with the opposite sex. That would be okay too. A very close friendship and your closest family member. So whoever you would identify as the family member that you're closest to. Those are your 3 relationships that you identify. I'd like you to write down 2 characteristics that all 3 of those have in common, but then 2 characteristics that are different among them. So you might say, in the romantic, friendship, and family relationships, they all are supportive of me. Okay? So, components of that relationship that are common, and then those that are not common, that you see differences between the relationships. And then, just to kind of take it a little further, can we make generalizations? Do you think we can say, well, I think that a friendship relationship does this, but I think a family relationship does this, and they don't intertwine? Can we generalize about those types of relationships based on the characteristics that we develop? So in your post this week, please, you don't have to give names, but, say best friend with opposite sex, or boyfriend or girlfriend or fiance or whatever, like the type of romantic relationship that it is, the very close friendship. So you can say best friend or childhood friend or whatever, and then your closest family member, that relationship. So my brother, my mom, my grandmother, whatever. Okay, and the last section of this is workplace issues, because I didn't want to neglect the fact that yes, our romantic relationships, our friendships, and our family relationships are the most crucial and integral part of our communication lives. However, we do work for a living, and we do interact with coworkers and bosses and employees, etc. So workplace issues, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time addressing some of those things. Okay, so if we think about like life in the workplace, communications is very important, obviously. Now, if we think about friendships in the workplace, due to proximity, we talked about, it's a relationship of convenience. In a friendship in the workplace, there can be task sharing. So you work together to accomplish your occupational goals. Life event sharing, you go through the same things at the same time in the workplace. Perceived similar life interests. If you're working in the same place, doing the same type of thing, there may be a perception that you have similarities. Now, if we move to romance in the workplace, it can be due to convenience. I see them every day, I get to know them, I like them. It's, I don't have to work real hard to spend time with them. They're with me 8 hours a day. So that can be due to convenience or exposure to a wide pool of potential partners. If you work at, any type of decent size location, there are usually a lot of coworkers that you have. So you have a lot of options if you, are interested in finding romance in the workplace. So what's interesting is it creates some interesting things that we need to think about. Safe environment for self-disclosure. You have to guard against whether or not it's safe to share things, personal things, with someone that you work with, because do you want the rest of the workplace to find that out through some turn of events? Dating is not problematic unless direct power is involved. So you have to keep in mind, again, if it's an equal relationship, like we talked about, relationships of choice are typically on an equal level. So if you're on an equal level in the company, it doesn't really matter so much. If direct power is involved, meaning one of you has occupational power over the other, that can become tricky. And what about if it's a boss-employee relationship? That can create problems, because then there's the question of harassment, etc. So those are just some things to keep in mind when talking about romance in the workplace. So if we talk about communication flow at work, 4 major types of communication: upward, downward, horizontal, and outward. And I don't think I really need to explain those very much. I think they're pretty understandable. But upward communication, so from the bottom to the top; downward communication, from the top to the bottom; horizontal communication, from one person to the other, almost like a direct communication; and then outward communication, broadcasted to more than one individual person. So more generalized, I suppose, for the outward communication. Now, if we think about those 4 types of communications, what implications are there for customer service? And on that note, I'm wondering if we can decide, I'd like you to share this in your post, so you're not only going to choose the 3 relationships and your 2 common and 2 uncommon characteristics, and then this is the other thing you're going to do this week. What are some of the worst experiences you've had with customer service? So think back to your ultimate horror story of customer service experience, and develop a list of the 5 most important guidelines for communicating with customers and clients. So, and it doesn't matter what you do for your work, it doesn't matter what your occupational experience is. What are your 5 most important guidelines for communicating with customers or clients or workplace individuals? So share your absolute worst customer service experience and then 5 most important guidelines for communicating with customers and clients. So that is all that I have for you today. So I hope that you are ready to enjoy your break and be done with this course, but I know that you have learned a lot, you've grown a lot, I've seen it in your posts, so I'm really excited to read your last few things for the semester. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I look forward to reading all about your presentations and your final posts. Thanks so much. Bye.